working week, and as Juliet mentioned there is supposedly this jazz revival going on in London at the moment, and indeed people with square-cut suits clutching Art Blakey albums and Stan Getz albums and copies of The Face magazine have been seen frequenting clubs like the WAG Club on Monday nights. Now, when our crack team went down there to point a few cameras about, they were a little dismayed to find that one of the most lithe and athletic figures on the dance floor was actually one of the presenters of this very programme. Yes, somewhere in that hotbed of human flesh is David Hepworth.
Monday night at the WAG Club, a room full of people shake, shimmy and occasionally jitterbug to the sound of records made before rock and roll was even thought of. Of course, many of these same people could probably have been found at the Blitz a few years back, cutting a rug to the sound of Spandau Ballet. So you'll excuse me if I find all this newfound purism a little hard to take. But you can't deny there's something going on here. Chris Sullivan, former leader of Blue Rondo, promotes club nights at the WAG.
Well, it was like something that we've always tried to put over in our music, the jazz Brazilian side of it and the Afro-Cuban side of it. So once we had the spare night, it's something I always wanted to do, is to promote jazz, because it's something I really believe in. Jazz and Latin music and percussion music as a dance music.
Bob Elms, you were one of the first people to write about the sort of fledgling jazz scene in this country. Now, I accuse you of just launching this as yet another kind of style hype. Defend yourself.
It's about music. More than anything I've ever written about young people in England being into it, it's about music. What it comes down to is the fact that for years jazz was buried in libraries and beneath grey hair and catalogue numbers, and if you didn't know those things, you weren't a jazz buff and you weren't allowed. And all of a sudden people realised that what there was this blinding music that you could dance to, that was infinitely stylish in itself. You didn't have to ape it, it was all there.
The terrible thing is the media have blown it all out of promotion. They say that Sade is jazz. I mean, things like Matt Bianco and...
Why do you not think they are?
Well, it's poppy, innit? You know,
it's not jazz,
image,
it's
just the image working from...
I mean, Sade's nicer to listen to than, say, Duran Duran, but then Clifford Brown is nicer to listen to than, say, Sade.
Mm-hmm. There were bands already, there were the Kalimas and there were the Working Weeks, and there's elements of what Sade does, which are jazz, and which you would not have seen 10 years ago in Britain.
Everybody thinks that this new jazz thing as such is censored in London, but there's lots going on around the country.
So what's happening in Manchester exactly?
Well,
are there places like that?
In Manchester there's a club called Berlin on a Tuesday night. There's a DJ called Colin Curtis.
And what sort of things does he play?
He plays lots of jazz, Latin music, sambas, things like that.
It seems to be very kind of heavily weighted towards things like Latin music generally, doesn't it?
Well, it's easy to dance to.
Well, it's easy if you can move like IDJ, the London-based dance ensemble who occasionally appear live with Working Week. This is their own short film, currently doing the rounds with Electric Dreams. These are the people who get the media attention in the smart magazines. Now, real old-timers like Will Gaines probably wouldn't make the fashion pages of The Face, but he's still forgotten more about fancy footwork than most people will ever know. Will Gaines, you've been dancing to jazz music for quite a long time, I think you'll forgive me saying.
Longer than that. I started out, like I said, in school. You know, can you imagine Tommy Flanagan, Kenny Burrell, Donald Byrd? These are the people I hung out with. And they would play instruments, and I would move the feet, because I had nothing else to do. I couldn't play drums, because I wanted to, but I couldn't. So you got to picture me going... I didn't know what I was doing, you see, but it was the beginning of what you call street dancing, jazz dancing today, was me going to places like Cincinnati, the Cotton Club show. Right now, it's all coming back.
Piling on the blue notes in between the filtered tips is Paul Murphy, the DJ who pioneered jazz as club music in London and elsewhere. What sort of things are really popular here?
Well, there's records like Sidewinder, Lee Morgan, you know, that's just been re-released. So
When was that originally recorded?
62. But, you know, it was like one of the first jazz records that ever like hit the pop charts. You know, so and then there's things like, you know, Stan Getz and Astrid Gilberto, that's been re-released, got in the charts.
What do the old jazzers think when they come down here, like the old sort of
I think they're just a bit shocked. A lot of them think it's just a flash in the pan, you know. I've seen it all before, but some of them are like quite pleased about it, you know.
Slim Gaillard seems happy enough. He worked with Charlie Parker, and when jazz was box office poison, acted in everything from Roots to Charlie's Angels. So here you are in London, it's 1984. I mean, how does a scene like this at the WAG Club compare with the kind of jazz clubs you must have known in the 40s and 50s?
Well, working in New York at Birdland, 52nd and Broadway, the jazz corner of the world, it was similar at that time in jazz. And I like to come up to WAG Club because the younger generation have read the book On the Road with Jack Kerouac, and they wanted to come up to me and they says, oh, it must have been swinging times then, man. They were really far out. But it was real natural, you know, and I just enjoy coming up here.
What do you think about it, the fact that there are teenagers dancing to music which you must have made in the 40s?
Yeah, well, I enjoy that because things cycle around, different music cycle around. They're doing jitterbug and they're doing different type of things, and it's really a pleasure to see them do the dancing.
Do you think they'll still be doing this in 4 or 5 years' time, or don't you care?
More than that, but I care too, because as long as they enjoy, you know, just keep swinging straight ahead.
We'd like to beat out a little number that's real groovy O'Rooney, titled Dunking Bagels O Rowty Ragvooty. Root salad there. Dunkin' bagels, Dunkin' bagels, Dunkin' bagels. Splash in the coffee, Dunkin' bagels, Dunkin' bagels, Dunkin' bagels. Splash in the coffee. Matzo ball, matzo balls and Rooney. A filter fish. Gefilte fish about here. Herring.
It must seem very curious, actually, to be 19 and to be listening to music like this. The traditional idea is you listen to pop music.
There's just no good pop music about at the moment. That's the only reason. It's really bland, isn't it?
I mean, what do you think of the music that's played here?
Overall, it's very good. But I mean, there's the odd...
Ella Fitzgerald tune that creeps in.
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with Ella Fitzgerald? I don't understand.
Because that's not my type of music. We like hard bop.
I think we've gone forwards by going backwards. We've gone through rock music, funk music, soul music, salsa, and they finally wound back up at jazz. I mean, it had it all, but it also had perhaps the most creative musical form of the 20th century. People creating classical music in front of you on stage every night.
Yeah.
Stunning.